ask you to join me in one more round of applause for the faculty in the room here on spring break. Just so in awe of you leading from the classroom. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We want to share with you about OER and Canvas Commons. In Washington, we committed to OER early, and so there's a tradition. I want to go back and talk about in the beginning. In the beginning, I was introduced to a course that had been developed in the Open Course Library with a lot of support and leadership from our state board of community and technical colleges. But the person that introduced me to this course was also new to Washington. We were both brand new. She was my chair. I was a new adjunct, new to Washington. And the course was introduced to me without explaining what is OER and what is Creative Commons. So I think this is a direct quote. There's this guy who did this thing, and you are legally allowed to use it, but it doesn't match our learning objectives. Well, after that rounding endorsement, I was like, okay, I want to impress the chair. It doesn't match our objectives. So I closed it up, and I didn't pay any more attention to the Open Course Library, because we have, in the traditional model with the traditional textbooks, it's all or nothing. If you don't know about the power of OER and the power of the licenses, you don't know the true breadth and depth of what you can do with it. So luckily, it really stopped me from going OER a whole nother year. But luckily, I got to meet Dr. Phil Venditti, and he was able to share with me more about OER. So what is it? What is this thing we're talking about? I've already been asked this morning, what do those letters stand for? Open Educational Resources, which we often think of as digital. There's a lot of confusion sometimes that people would think OER is just an e-text, or maybe an e-text offered for free. But there's like this three-pronged definition. OER can be on paper, and it can be something that we offer to students in paper that they can annotate, or it can be digital resources. So it's not limited digital, it can also be on paper. An open resource is either something from the public domain, which we'll talk about, or something that has a Creative Commons license, so that you can freely use it and repurpose it. So that's kind of the three-pronged definition. So I think it's important to talk about the licenses earlier and often in the OER conversation, even though it may feel like we're down in the weeds. I want to give you the speed dating version and talk with you just in a few minutes what took me 2 years to grasp. And then when you're ready for the nice sit down, take me out to dinner meal, our state board with the leadership of Dr. Boyek Shea has this great class that's free and open at Open WA, Open WA. And it's not just limited to Washington. I know we have guests here from Texas and California. It's a free class that's facilitated. You'll get feedback and a certificate so that you'll go into these licenses deeper there. So with the public domain, these are things where maybe the copyright is expired, like Shakespeare and Beethoven, or there are people that are donating things, resources, and starting with a public domain license, or often there are materials that the government has funded through tax dollars, so that has a public domain. And technically, you don't even have to cite the author in the public domain, but I share with students it's good practice. And if a student turns in materials to me and they haven't cited it, I think they just got it from Google. And so I encourage them to cite even when it's in the public domain. So CCBY is your most free license. You can do anything with it and even sell it, which feels kind of weird. But I'll share with you an example. We had a student in the film course, Marcus Finkel. Marcus, I had the pleasure a couple of years ago of teaching Introduction to Film. And of course we wanted to do it OER. Marcus Finkel came into the class with graduate level films expertise. It was the first time we had had film production, so he took the class. I can't take credit for teaching him anything. He was so great with the work he put out. And all of the students had to use music and things they could use legally, because we saw around week 3 of the class, the work was going to be so great, we actually showed it at the Gig Harbor Galaxy Theater. So everything had to be legal outside the classroom, so the students had to learn about the licensing. So Marcus used music by Josh Woodward, who shares all of his music with a full CCBY license. Then after the class, Marcus was approached and his film was purchased, and he's now working professionally, commercially in the film industry, and he can still sell that movie because Josh shared it with the full CCBY. And there's this cool comment on YouTube where Marcus credits Josh, of course, in the movie, but also in the comments. Josh found it, and he's like, I love what you did with this work. So a lot of collaboration that comes from OER. CCBY non-commercial makes sense. This is where someone says, I don't want you to make money off of it. And that is something that's tempting for us, especially because we don't want someone else to be sharing our work. The danger of this is then what if you want to put it in the bookstore and the bookstore needs to recoup their costs? So Cable Green himself has said that's not a commercial use, that's okay, but the jury's still out on that. That hasn't been challenged in court, so I wouldn't recommend it. So a way to get around that, if you want someone not to be making money off of it, but you also want the bookstore to have some freedom, is the share alike license. The share alike license is like a version of the golden rule that says, I've shared this with you, you have to freely share what you put it in. Make sense? The no derivative means you can't make any changes. I call this the killer of creativity and innovation. If you put a no derivative license on your work, then someone can't adapt it to their learning objectives. So once you understand the licenses, then I understood that I could take the pieces of Phil's class, which to this day are some of my students' favorite assignments, and I could adapt to our learning objectives and fill in any missing pieces, because we have more learning objectives than they do. So it works its magic only when you understand the licenses and what you can do with them. And then they just have where you can put it together. Non-commercial, share alike. Non-commercial, no derivative. Remember, we highly discourage the no derivative. I want to also encourage you to share this information with your students. We'll talk about that more a little later. So for me, as adjunct going open, I was starving for collaboration. I wanted to hear what other people were doing in their classes. I wanted to use the good pieces, but that meant I had to find the sharers, those that were willing to share with the new adjunct what they were doing. So that collaboration, that need was filled by the OER community for my purposes. So Phil in Washington there were other people in Washington that had shared with Phil, like Ellen Bremen from Highline. And then I was able to be introduced to Brent Adrian in Nebraska's Central Community College, Petra Guerra at Wiley College in Texas, and Richard Meadoff at Mercy College in New York. So the public speaking course that's in Commons has had review from across the nation. It's being adopted across the nation. And because of OER, we were allowed to do that collaboration. And it was fun. And I didn't have to do all the work by myself. So at that point in my OER journey, I was so grateful for people that had shared with me, mentored me, helped build a better class. I wanted to start sharing back with others, but I couldn't find any place to do that. I did start a Flickr site with all CCBY photography images, and I was sharing educational videos on YouTube, but that's not really an effective way to get the information out and share it with other peers. And kid you not, I happened to be out at dinner with other OER leaders. I was being told there's no money in repositories, nobody's going to fund them, it's not going to happen. And I got a text from Scott Dennis that said, hey, Instructure's going to look into making an OER repository. Can I give your email and phone number to Kate McGee? We want to talk with you. We want to collaborate. So I want to turn this over to Kate McGee, who's here from Instructure to tell us more about Canvas Commons.
Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. I'm really excited to talk with you about Canvas Commons and the way in which it can enable you to collaborate and build your resources with each other. So Commons allows for you to share a really large range of resources. So you can do entire courses, kind of like Christy was talking about, Or if you have individual, down the hall, a teacher has asked you for a quiz, what are you doing there? It's easy to share that, even to files. If you've got PDFs, cheat sheets, different worksheets that you want to be able to share, that whole range you can share. And what's nice about it is you're sharing from Canvas to Commons, and when you bring that resource back in, it's ready for you to be able to use it and to edit it and to make it your own. So we're really excited about it. It's got also ways for you to be able to see what you've shared and manage those, as well as what you've imported and what resources you're using there. And so with Commons comes some, desire to let those other people that you've worked with give credit where credit is due. And just like Christy was talking about, she had this great opportunity to work with all these other people. So we want to talk a little bit about attributions and how you can make that a part of your course. And one of the great things about this is you'll see the URL down here. This is from OpenWA, and you can find this attribution builder, which is a fantastic tool that I recommend to people all the time, and I'm just so grateful that your state board has made that available for all of the different educators to be able to take advantage of that. But what we recommend is going to that builder and that attribution builder, building your attribution, and then you can paste that into whatever kind of resource you're sharing to Commons. That way that gets shared into Commons, and then that also gets imported back into Canvas when someone else is choosing to use your open education resource. So just if we're looking at the simple anatomy of it, you're wanting to make sure that you're including the title of that resource. You're wanting to cite who's made it, whether it's an author, an organization, or a project name. And then you're wanting to include the license. And if you can, any one of those, it's really good to include a URL with that, especially with the license. You want to have people be able to click on that and be able to go find out more information. And if that happens to be a derivative that you're going to be posting, then it's also recommended that you add, append to it a way in which you can cite the link or reference where you found it. So, and then in Commons, if you want to add additional attribution for when someone is searching for the resource, this is what our share page looks like. If any of you are familiar with sharing resources on Commons. And so you can choose your license, whether it's going to be public domain, the Creative Commons that Christy went over, and then you can choose to add additional information about who has access to it and anything else you want to, or adding that attribution. So I want to talk with you a little bit about why. So you now know what OER is, you now know how these licenses work. What are some additional reasons why you would choose to share your work? You've put a lot of time into it. Why put it out there? Well, some thoughts behind it is the idea that you're going to be saving time and money. Not only just when we're talking about money just for yourself or if you think about time as money, but open education resources are often free or no cost to students. So that's making it easier for them to actually come into the classroom and be able to participate quickly and not having to wait to see if they have enough money to buy their textbook. When we're talking about time, if you're not having to start from scratch, if you're able to go see ideas, if you're able to pick up some things that you're going to be able to use in your course, you're going to be saving time. Even though you still have to adapt it into your course, hopefully there's a time savings there. Another thing about sharing your resource is the ability for someone else to pick it up and make revisions to it and to make different versions of it. So one thing that you can do is post a resource up and someone else can come in and help make it more accessible. If there's someone who has those skills and wants to do more of that, that's something that you can do, and that's easier when you're sharing your resource. The same story goes with internationalizing content. One of the stories that has been super cool in Commons has been seeing courses shared. We recently had one about gamification. And someone else picked that course up and translated the entire thing into Spanish because we have so many Spanish users. So now Not only is that course available in English, it's in Spanish. More people can get access to it and be able to use it. And then, we're all in different locations. OER is, around the world. You might be teaching your class about business in the United States, but someone else has the opportunity to pick up your course or module in a different country, and they're able to adapt it to their cultural references and be able to make it more appropriate for their students. Another one is when we're looking at revisions. And on this one, I want to turn it over to Christy because she's got a really great story she wants to share.
So I went through a bachelor program at Murray State University that required a thesis at the bachelor level so there was a lot of intense APA training, and my student paper is still used as the example in the program. Then when they hired me to adjunct for them after graduate school, I made a series of handouts to help students avoid the pitfalls that I was going through. So these handouts in this paper are seen as a guide, from a strong leader in APA formatting. So when I was collaborating on this project with Brent Adrian in Nebraska, he calls one day and he said, "Can you tell me again how I do the citation for a derivative? Because I'm making changes to your APA handouts." And I said, "Oh, that's great. I would love for you to tell me what you're doing with it. And then, we'll talk about this attribution." He said, "Well, there are 2 mistakes." What? I said, "Can I please just add you to the attribution and give you credit for cleaning that up, and let's not put it as a derivative as opposed to the one with the mistakes." When we allow ourselves to embrace the vulnerability and share our work and let others build upon it, it comes back to us better. So, of course, I also was introduced to OER initially. When I went OER, it was to help students that couldn't afford the textbook. And that's often where the conversation starts. That is what gets our attention and the attention of the students. But I want to share with you that that's just the tip of the iceberg. What OER can do in the classroom, the savings is just a day one conversation. If we take OER and just replace an expensive textbook with something that's free or more affordable, it's like we're driving an airplane down the road. It can, if the road's wide enough. It has wheels, but that's not what it was meant to do. That's not what it's fully capable of doing. It's meant to go higher and farther and faster. So what are we talking about when we switch from OER into open pedagogy? We're talking about getting past those disposable assignments. Students are putting a lot of hours and effort into their homework that unfortunately often ends up in the shredder. It would be better for them, and they become more invested in their education when we give them projects and opportunities, even for papers, that it lives beyond the quarter and gives value to the world, which is the definition we've adopted of open pedagogy here at Tacoma Community College. It's a project that lives, that's open, that lives beyond the quarter and gives value to the world. So, for instance, we have here at TCC this quarter, LaToya Reed and Aaron Legg have been doing these innovative course design things where they have me come in and tell the students about the licenses in OER because they're publicly sharing their projects. And once we put it out on the web and we leave the classroom, then we lose fair use. You can't just use pictures from Google Images. And a little surprise byproduct of the open work is when students, when we talk about copyright, that's their copyright, that's when they start to respect copyright and plagiarism goes down. It has really become the light bulb that reduces plagiarism when we show them about their copyright and then give them the option, because OER should always be voluntary or it loses its magic. We give them the option to put a Creative Commons license on their work. Just last quarter, I had a student saying, "Do you have an example of that?" I said, "If you'll put a Creative Commons license on yours, I will have for the students in the next class." So, in the public speaking class, we do demonstration speeches. So, we've had students, because they're given the opportunity, demonstrate how to do the other assignments as their speech. Demonstrate how to use multimedia at TCC, and then put a Creative Commons license on that video, and then it's in the class. Because my instructions, we have great resources for our students. They can check out cameras for free. We have a great multimedia team that can help with editing, but unfortunately, we're in 2 different buildings. So the written instructions for go to building 15 or go to building 16, get your camera, here's how to reserve a room, so you have quiet space to record, then go to building 16. The students weren't reading my 6 pages of detailed instructions, but they do watch that student video, and it was a great way for the students to show that they can do a demonstration speech. That's an assignment that's not going to go in the shredder. And so with Erin Legg and LaToya Reed, LaToya was inspired by something she saw in a 900 level class. We scaffolded that down, showed the students the licenses, multimedia came in and did a storyboarding exercise for the students. Our Business Education Tutoring Center came in and showed how they could help. The students took their papers and made them into Pikachucha videos. Something that LaToya had seen in a 900 level class, we're doing with 80 and 90 level students, because we were inspired to realize you don't have to wait till graduate school to have fun in the classroom. But it does mean we've got to think outside the box. We already have a lot on our plate. So I'm so excited to have Kate explain to you there's a new way that Commons is going to help with this, so we can collaborate and do this work together.
So when we've been rolling out Commons over the last, we launched it last summer for everybody to have access to it. One of the big things with working with Christy and the other educators is wanting to create a space in which we can then facilitate and enable collaboration and projects and the ability to reach out and ask for help around the work that you're doing. And so what we're going to be doing is, or what we've already done actually, if you go into comments today, is you can tag your resource with, if you share something publicly, you can tag your resource with a community review, and you can just actually click on that blue link there and it'll add it to your tags. And then our community manager is going to be looking at these different resources and making them available within our community space on Jive. And that'll mean that if you want someone to look at this for edits, if you have questions around something, you can post it there and get more feedback from your peers. The other thing that we want to also enable is that collaboration. So if you have a project that you're working on, post it up on Commons and make it available, and then come to this space here and post what you're working on and say, I'd like to work, and even if you haven't shared it to Commons, if you want to say, I'm working on this science project, I want to be able to hear what other people are thinking about, develop this entire course out, you can post it here in Commons, or in our Commons community space, and hear those different people and those different voices. And I really truly believe that having all those different voices creates a better quality of course and the ability to really have a lot of different ideas going into it. So really excited that we're going to be doing this. I think this is our first step into be able to further facilitate this type of collaboration, and I hope it's something that we'll just keep doing and keep building on. We really would like to be able to see how these projects grow over time. And then just when you're looking at filling out a project, I wanted to show you there's a quick little form that you fill out to let others know what you're going to be working on. So today we're going to be doing a lab in Building 16 in Room 110. If you haven't shared to Commons, if you have questions about Commons, would love to have you come and talk with us, come experiment, maybe meet a friend that has a similar project that they want to work on. And if you have any questions and things that you're wanting to discover, you can visit this URL. It has both of those links that I showed you earlier, the ability to post for collaboration and for a community review. And thank you so much for having us here today, and really excited to see what you guys create.
Now we want to see if you have any questions. We have a wireless mic so that you won't have to shout. So let us know if you have any questions, and Nick will bring you a microphone.
Thank you.
We're all ready to dive in, right? So we hope you'll share the comments today, and we have some common swag that will be some giveaways at the 3 o'clock social, so make sure to bring a business card. Swag is always fun at a conference, right? Any lingering questions about the day? Thank you so much.